Hello, and welcome to the Pattern of Sound Words, a faith-based podcast where we encourage one another through the Word of God. In every episode, Reverend Dr. Sean Angel shares with us a message of encouragement and hope so that we can be blessed and be a blessing to others. So join us as we look into God's Word today with Pastor Sean.
Now, last week we explored one landmine that will destroy your vision, the opposition that often comes in the form of criticism. And criticism can keep you and challenge you from completely focusing on the vision that God has for your life, keeping you from fully pursuing the dream that God will want you to fulfill. Criticism can take like all of your hopes and make them vanish if you're not careful. But that's not the only landmine to be aware of. As you focus on your vision, as you pursue that call on your life, that mission or ministry for the church from God, there is another landmine that can derail us, and that's distractions. Sometimes I have difficulty, and I'll share this, but I don't want to share this because then you'll think. Anyway, I'll say this. Sometimes I have difficulty focusing on a conversation. Right? It doesn't happen often, but sometimes when I'm in a large room of people, I can easily be distracted by the conversations around me. Now you're thinking, if I'm having a conversation with you, are you actually listening to me and be distracted? Most of the time, it doesn't happen. But when it happens, so much so, I have to truly concentrate on and focus on the person who's speaking to me. Right? Like it takes effort and energy. Right? But I know I'm not the only one. Right? I know there are many people here who are highly distractible. Think about how little it would take to turn your attention away from this message. Right? How about some feedback in the sound system? Right? How about a child crying or just running through the aisle or something like that, right? A growling stomach, could be my growling stomach today. A siren passing by the church, a cell phone going off, the temperature, just a few degrees cooler or a few degrees warmer can change our focus from where our attention needs to be. And that would not necessarily be a problem, but here's the issue. Life is full of distractions. And those distractions are constantly taking us from the path that God would have us journey down, the path of our vision. And so keep that in mind as we look into our vision or our message today from Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 1 to 13. And it says this, beginning verse 1, it says, Now when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arab and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall, and there was no breach left in it, although up to that time I had not set up the doors and the gates. Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, Come, let us meet together at Hakkephiim in the plain of Ono. But they intended to do me harm. And I sent messengers to them, saying, I am doing a great work. I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them in the same manner. In the same way, Sanballat, for the 5th time, sent his sermon to me with an open letter in his hand. In it was written, It is reported among the nations, and Geshem also says it, that you and the Jews intend to rebel, and this is why you are building the wall. And according to these reports, you wish to become their king. And verse 7, and you have also set up the prophets proclaiming you in Jerusalem that there is a king in Judah. And now the king will hear of these reports. So now come and let us take counsel together. And I sent to him saying, No such things have you said, as you say, have been done, for you are inventing them out of your own mind. In verse 9, for they all wanted to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands. But now I went into the house of Shemaiah, in the son of Delaiah, the son of Methabel, who was confined to his home. And he said, Let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. They are coming to kill you by night. But I said, should such a man as I run away? And what man such as I could go into the temple and live? I will not go in. And I understood and saw that God had not sent him, but he had pronounced the prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. And for this purpose he was hired, that I should be afraid and act in this way and sin. And so they could give me a bad name in order to taunt me. Man, oh man, I picked the wrong book. I'm just like, I should have picked Moses. I can pronounce Moses. Moses is simple, right? Not these, not Sanballat. Anyway, going on. There's my another rant. Okay, here's the problem about distractions, and I want to phrase it another way, right? And it's like this: life is now, right? Bills are now. Crisis is now. Things have to be dealt with is now. And I've said before, we are creatures of the moment, right? If there's an issue, we are focused on the issue, not what happens later. And vision, that's later, right? We can get around to that down the road. And there are too many things in front of us right now, and that must be attended to. But all the things that we deal with in our lives, right? Like job, school, church, relationships, kids, vision can get pushed back easily. It starts to blur and the distractions become the center of attention. Andy Stanley in his book Visioneering gives gives an example of weddings. And he talks actually about a common phenomenon. And I've experienced this too. Like as the wedding date gets closer, the couple thinks less about the marriage and more about the wedding, especially brides, or at least my bride, right? But even family members, right? As the day grows closer, everyone is constantly checking in on the details, making sure the things for the wedding have been tackled, all the centerpieces, the DJ, everything is done. What about dinner? What about this? They're making sure that everything is taken care of. But we ask fewer and fewer questions about the marriage, making sure that the relationship issues have been tackled. There's an understandable dynamic, but it's not necessarily a good one. Often the wedding, which is a good thing, distracts the couple's attention from the marriage, which is a great thing. And for the most part, and even Stanley points this out, that there were very few ugly weddings, but there are plenty of ugly marriages. You know, pastors on a few occasions have suggested to a couple that they postpone their wedding. And it happens, and there's usually good reasoning behind the postponement. But the objectives he hears, or they hear, are always the same. Right? The invitations have already been printed. Right? Friends and relatives have already adjusted their vacation plans. The hall is already reserved. We'll lose the deposit. Everything has already been planned. Wedding plans are always the issue. And the wedding becomes the driving force in the decision process, rather than the original vision of a lifelong marriage of happiness together. And whether we realize it or not, we are easily distracted. And that means that our visions are easily distractible. But Nehemiah provides a wonderful answer for defeating those distractions to your vision. In Nehemiah chapter 6, the wall is finished. The vision seems almost complete. All they have to do is hang the doors, right? They're pretty good. Nothing can stop this vision from coming to completion. But we see in our text today, right? Like Sanballat and his crew and Tobiah, they haven't given up yet. All their attempts to derail the work via the workers have failed. And so now they shift their attentions. They shift their strategy and they focus on the leader. And so we see in verse 2, they go after Nehemiah. And Sanballat, or as you may remember from last week, right? His name means sin gave birth to him. And his sidekick Tobiah have decided to try and distract Nehemiah. They decided to invite him and ask him to come to this little meeting place. And it's actually appropriately named Oh No, right? Like right? Because they want Nehemiah to come with them. Right? Talk things out. Mend some fences. Let bygones be bygones. Get on the same page as his neighbors. An invitation that could have easily been an extension of an olive branch. But I love Nehemiah's reply. It's one of my favorite verses, if not the favorite verse in the book of Nehemiah. It says, verse 3, it says, and I sent messengers to him saying that I am doing a great work. I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. That's awesome. A God-given vision will require godly intervention. And think about this. Is there anything greater than a vision from God? If God gives you a vision to do something, is there anything greater? Or if your vision is from God, is there anything that could be more worthwhile in your life? Is there anything more worthy of your time, your energy, or your efforts? If you're engaged with a vision from God, like Nehemiah, you are doing a great work. Why would you let anything distract you from that? Well, because sometimes we don't recognize the distractions. Right? So I'm going to look at a few of them together this morning, all right? So first is opportunities. And you name them, right? Financial, relational, spiritual, career, business, vacation, entertainment, athletic, investment opportunities, and more. List can go on forever, right? And these opportunities are often distractions from the great work that God has called you to do. And the opportunities you must watch out for the most are good opportunities. Those things that you can easily justify because they don't sound bad to the outside observer. Right? I've learned, like, over the years, I can get real busy real quick in ministry. Bar none. Right? I've learned that pastoral ministry is a minefield of good opportunities that can distract me from the vision that God has called me to. For example, right? Like I can chair committee meetings, accept speaking opportunities, attend community activities, participate in ministerial events. I could be out 6 nights a week taking good advantage of good godly opportunities that can be a blessing. But they might not relate to the great thing that God has called me to. You see what I'm saying here? So those things, although they're good, right, can be a distraction. From the outside, the invitation from Sanballat might have looked like a good opportunity, but if Nehemiah had accepted it, he would have been killed. And likewise, if taken advantage of, good opportunities could kill your chance of accomplishing your vision. Like one of the things that I've been working on, and I said it earlier, over the last number of weeks, and actually a year and a half, is all this like assignments and papers for a doctor of ministry. Like a lot of hard work and effort have been put into projects, and Fridays this class is over, and thank goodness, right? And I've been trying to hand all these things in and complete everything in a professional manner, while at the same time making sure that all of my obligations here at Inniswood and my family are taken care of, right? Like there's a balance, there's a give and take that needs to happen. And currently, my vision, right, my big vision is to graduate, right? But over the last number of weeks, there have been some good things that I wanted to engage in, opportunities where I know I would be blessed. I would be able to see some friends and be engaged with ministry. And I also know that not being at those events, when I see some people, they'll ask me why I didn't come, and they will go on forever. But hey, you missed such a great time, and it was fantastic, and the Spirit was flowing, and people were saved, and it was fantastic, and you should have been there. It was a good event. And that's true, right? I don't doubt it. I'm sure that positive that the event was good. But listen, my vision to graduate still outweighs other good events. And friends, look, don't let good opportunities rob you from the joy of seeing your great vision come to reality.
Have you been blessed by the message so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to our podcast. Also, are you interested in having Pastor Sean come and speak at your next church service or ministry event? Then make sure you visit our website, crosspatternpublishing.com. There you can leave a message for Pastor Sean and he will be sure to get back to you. Now, let's return to our message today.
When distractions come your way, remind yourself just like in the book of Nehemiah, I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. And a second distraction that we partially explored last week is criticism. Even after Nehemiah rejected Sanballat's invitation, Sanballat came back 4 more times in the same manner, right? With the same invitation. But the 5th time, Sanballat sent more than an invitation. And let me read to you verse 5 again. It says this, in the same way, Sanballat for the 5th time sent his servant to me with an open letter in his hand. 5th time, the letter was unsealed. Now, you may have heard like the custom back in those days, right? Like people would write a letter and it would be on papyrus or leather, and they would have it tied up probably with a string or a ribbon. Sanballat was a governor, so he's probably like, he's got some fancy, like, I don't know, bow on it or whatever. Anyway, and then it would be sealed, and they would take clay or wax and they would put it over like the edge of the paper, and then they would seal it with like a stamp or a signet ring or something like that, verifying the security of the communication. But this letter wasn't sealed. Why? Because Sanballat wanted everybody to read it. Right? He had written a letter accusing Nehemiah of plotting a revolt, and he wanted everyone along the way to see the accusation. And basically, he was spreading a rumor. Maybe he was trying to get it back like all the way to King Artaxerxes. Right? That his cupbearer was on some kind of ego trip, and he not only wanted to be governor, he wanted to be king. But so now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a good time to get into an argument. Right? Nehemiah should get into a fight. Right? Confront this letter, debate Sanballat, defend himself against these false accusations. Right? Well, look how he responds. Verses 8 and 9. Says, I said to him, saying, no such things as you say have been done, for you are inventing them out of your own mind. For they all wanted to frighten us, thinking that their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands. Talk about someone who's focused on vision. Nehemiah knows what he has been called to do, and he's not going to be distracted by it. And so when the criticism wells up, in the face of the attacks, he prays, he asks for strength, and he continues to work. And it looks like this today. Stay-at-home parents. Stay-at-home parents sometimes are accused of doing so because they lack education and marketable skills. Don't listen to that. You're doing a great thing. Don't come down. Right? Business people or employees pass on promotions and bonuses to prioritize their families and are accused of being unmotivated or having what it takes to cut it in today's marketplace. You are doing a great thing. Don't come down. Church, remember, as you pursue your vision, you will face criticism. Bottom line. But you can answer it with, I am doing a great thing. So say a prayer, ask God for strength, and press on. And I tell you what, if you want to silence your critics, because I've done this a few times, if you want to silence your critics, then complete the vision that God has called you to. Right? Whatever we've had in our hearts from the first week, right? That God has placed in your hearts. You want to silence critics? Do it. Right? Don't get distracted. Jump ahead to verses 15 and 16 for a second. Look how a complete vision impacts criticism. It says, so the wall was finished on the 25th day of the month Ulul. It's one of my months that drives me nuts. Anyway, it's like Ul, Ullool. Anyway, I should have took linguistics instead of other things. Anyway, and when all of our enemies heard of it, all of the nations around us were afraid and fell greatly in their own esteem, for they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. That's how you silence critics. Complete the vision. And one more common distraction of fulfillment of your vision, and that's fear. Check this out. Sanballat is not able to get Nehemiah to come to his little meeting, so he comes up with another plan, right? Verse 10, it says that, so when I went to the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, son of Mehetabel, who was confined to his home, he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you, and they are coming to kill you by night. People have been watching Sanballat and company, right, throw their little temper tantrums and pretty much posture themselves in a hostile, threatening manner for the entire period of time that they are rebuilding this wall. And even before, when they even heard about it, like we talked about it in Nehemiah 2, even when they just heard about it, they were like angry and upset. But those working on the wall, they're staying at their work, and they are seeing a hostile force just on the other side of the wall. And from a purely human standpoint, there's good reason to be afraid. But verse 12, I jump ahead to it because I'm going to show you what a godly vision bathed in constant prayer can do for you. And it says, I understood. And I saw that God had not sent him, but he had pronounced the prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. And for this purpose he was hired, that I should be afraid and act in this way and sin, so that they could give me a bad name in order to taunt me. Now, this is a person connected to God. Nehemiah can sense in his spirit that this little plan of Shemaiah, someone within the city, a Jew from Jerusalem, is not for Nehemiah's safety. It's a setup. Shemaiah had made this story to suggest that Sanballat is going to send an assassin and murder Nehemiah. So Nehemiah should run into the temple for protection. But there's some things to understand about the deeper meaning of what Shemaiah is suggesting. First thing is, only priests are allowed in that area of the temple that houses the altar. Nehemiah is not a priest. So to go in, this would totally discredit Nehemiah with the people. And worse than that, it would violate God's law. And doing so would completely undermine Nehemiah's authority as a leader. Like, I know we got social media today, but think about how quickly word would spread that the governor was hiding in the temple, right? That he was clinging to the altar, or he's underneath it, or he's like somewhere around it, right? Stowing away from a would-be assassin, violating the law of God because he was afraid of his own life. Think that would give the workers confidence to finish the job or rebuild the wall? No. But look what Nehemiah says. Verse 11, he says, but I said, should a man such as I run away? And what man such as I could go into the temple and live? I will not go in. You know, one of the reasons, I was looking at vision and I was hemming and hawing between looking at the life of Moses and looking at Nehemiah, was always like Nehemiah in this story. But I don't think up until doing this series, I don't think I really ever saw him with hero eyes until now. He is one committed, devoted, focused follower of God. And understand, this isn't Nehemiah's ego coming into play. When he says a man such as I, what does he mean? He means someone on a mission from God, someone called by God to fulfill the vision. He's saying, why would someone called by God, someone appointed by God to do a great work, someone like me run and hide? I won't do it. So how do you respond to fear when the vision seems to be breaking down in your life? Right? Do you say, I really need to quit, but what if I can't find another job? I know I need to say no, but what if it costs me my bonus? I know God wants me to initiate this relationship, but what if they reject me? And then comes the biggest what if of all, the ultimate vision destroyer. What if I fail? It's interesting. While fear is a distraction, it's also a form of focus. We can get so focused in on what we are afraid of, we lose sight on the vision that God gave to us. Church, don't allow fear to rob you of your vision for your marriage or your finances or your relationship or your career or the vision you have for this church. Don't let fear distract you from what you believe could and should be done. Considering what God has called you to, since we are all children of the Most High God, should we run from where we are and turn from where we are heading because of fear of what might happen? Let me say it again, right? I'm doing a great work. I can't come down, right? Say it with me. I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. Does it make you feel good? Why don't you think about that for a moment? What great work are you doing, right? What great work are you doing? Not good. There are many good things in the world. Many things that can consume and possess and own you. What great work are you doing? Right? Or maybe a better way to pose the question today. As you look at your life, is there something that when the distractions of opportunity and criticism and fear come your way, you can point at that thing and say, God is calling me to a great work and I won't be distracted?
Thanks for joining us on the Pattern of Sound Words podcast. We hope you've been blessed with the message today. For more information about our podcast and Pastor Sean Angel, make sure to visit our website, crosspatternpublishing.com, where you can subscribe to our podcast so you'll never miss an episode and more. And while you're at it, if you found value in this program and you have been encouraged, we would greatly appreciate a rating and review. Or if you would tell a friend about the show, that helps us out as well. Be sure to check back often as new episodes are published weekly. And until we connect again, friends, remember to follow the pattern of sound words that we find in the scriptures daily. Take care and be blessed.